Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Roseville City Council Budget Workshop meeting. It's May 28th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order and please ask our clerk to read the roll.
Thank you. We'll start our roll call with Vice Mayor Elbert.
Here.
Councilmember Heldeshout.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
Councilmember Cucci.
Here.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Here, thank you. Being that we're at a budget workshop meeting, I thought it was appropriate that our Assistant City Manager and CFO, Dennis Kaufman, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carmen, would you please announce the meeting procedures?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for being here for our budget workshop. Agendas are available at the end of the staff table on your right or online on our city's websites. All comments from the public should be directed to the City Council and not to any staff member or the audience. All speakers must speak from the podium as this meeting is being recorded. Today, as we do have the budget workshop, all public comment will be taken right after every single item and presentation from the department, and then we'll move on with the next item, and then it will follow a similar fashion today. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker.
Okay, thank you. So I'll open it up to public comment. Now would be a time for anyone to address the council on any items that are not on the agenda. Do we have anyone here this afternoon that would like to make a comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. And we will start in with an introduction by our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Dominic Casey, City Manager. And so tonight I'll provide some opening comments, and I'll turn it over to Dennis. Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and City Council members, and mostly staff and some members of the public. Thank you for being here tonight as we review our city's proposed budget and gather your input. It's a very exciting night, very big night. The budget we present tonight reflects a thoughtful and responsible approach to managing city resources amid evolving economic conditions. While external factors continue to shape our financial outlook, from shifting market trends to changes in regulations, our commitment to stability and strategic planning remains unchanged. In Roseville, we maintain a disciplined approach to financial stewardship. Our budget is balanced, reserves are fully funded, and we are ensuring that expenditures align with our long-term priorities and our strategic plan. At the same time, we continue to invest in infrastructure, our services, and our workforce development to meet the needs of a changing and evolving community. As we expand, we recognize the challenges that come with growth. Whatever, if it's reinvesting in our aging assets, refining our organizational structure, or addressing development challenges on our borders, our goal is always to proactively adapt while maintaining our high service standards. Economic development remains strong, with a significant investments such as Bosch's expansion, our retail openings in Westfield Galleria and as well as West Roseville. And while these additions bring exciting opportunities, we remain mindful of the broader economic trends that may impact our future growth. Additionally, we continue to monitor the regulatory changes and challenges that impact our city operations, including fleet requirements and our utility planning. We are committed to staying informed and preparing accordingly to ensure that our community is well positioned to continue to grow and prosper into the future. Tonight's workshop is an opportunity to review the proposed budget together, share those perspectives, and refine our priorities that keep Roseville in our continued success in sight. I want to thank each of you for joining us this evening, and I look forward to our discussion. And with that, I will turn it over to Dennis Kaufman, our CFO and Assistant City Manager.
Good afternoon, Mayor Bernasconi and council members. Our agenda today, after this brief introduction, will include budget presentations by our police and fire departments. We're having them present before the citywide fiscal overview presentation today so the chiefs can leave early to get on the road to travel to another work commitment that they have this evening. Following the public safety department budget presentations, finance staff will provide the citywide fiscal overview, and that'll be followed by department presentations by Parks, Recreation, and Libraries, Development Services, Public Works, and Economic Development. There will be a break for City Council deliberations and public comment after each department presentation and after the fiscal overview. So the city's budget process is extensive, and it's almost a year-round activity now. Staff started the budget development process for next fiscal year last fall. As a reminder, the proposed budget for the fiscal year is for this year that starts this coming July 1st of 2025 and goes through June 30th of 2026. The public process started in February with the presentation of the budget development calendar at the February 5th City Council meeting. Then in late February, the City Council met for their annual strategic planning workshop, where they reviewed progress on the 4-year strategic plan and reaffirmed their goals and priorities. We believe that the proposed budget before you this evening aligns with the City Council's strategic plan. In mid-March, the city manager held meetings with each of the department's leadership teams to review their budget proposals before making decisions for the proposed budget. And then in April, staff presented a number of budget-related updates to the City Council at regular council meetings, including an update on the city's pension and other post-employment benefit liabilities on April 2nd. And at that same meeting, council also adopted updates to the city's financial policies that guide our budget development. And then at the April 16th meeting, staff from the electric and environmental utilities departments presented their proposed budgets to the City Council. At that same meeting, council received the annual report from the Measure B Local Sales Tax Citizens Oversight Committee, and council received its first annual presentation from Human Resources on the status of the city's vacancies and retention efforts as required by a new state law. On Friday, May 16th, the city manager released the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-2026, and at the May 21st council meeting, staff from Public Works, Parks, Recreation, and Libraries, the electric utility, and the environmental utilities presented highlights of the proposed budget for the city's capital improvement program. So that brings us to today, our budget workshop, which is an opportunity for the City Council and the public to hear presentations about the citywide budget, the city's financial condition and economic trends, and the proposed budgets for the general fund departments. Finally, at the June 18th City Council meeting, staff will present the proposed budget for final consideration and adoption. In addition to the many council presentations between February and budget adoption in June, the city also communicates budget information using a variety of tools, including this one-page budget overview. And for those in the audience, we have copies of the one-page overview up here. And after budget adoption, the city provides a trifold budget in brief pamphlet that summarizes the budget as well. The proposed budget is available on the city's website and included in e-newsletters and social media. And the city shares budget updates with city employees throughout the budget process. Tonight, we're going to provide information about the proposed citywide budget, including major categories of revenues and expenditures, and proposed staff augmentations. And we'll provide information focusing on the general fund revenues and expenditures, challenges and trends, the 5-year forecast, and presentations of general fund department budgets. Our objective tonight is to confirm with the council that the recommendations in the proposed budget align with the strategic plan by maintaining service levels as Roseville grows, addressing new state and federal mandates, enhancing service levels for council strategic plan goals, and maintaining reserves and paying down those long-term obligations. The proposed budget also addresses Measure B priorities to maintain services as the city grows, including public safety staffing, and making fiscal health investments, including maintaining our general fund reserves at our policy target levels. So to wrap up this brief introduction, this budget is proposed conservatively to address well-established concerns, while being optimistic about upcoming opportunities and maintaining the city's fiscal responsibility. Our concerns include the flattened sales tax revenue growth that you'll hear about tonight, the level of economic uncertainty and the risk of recession, and limited resources in some of our capital funding programs. Our significant upcoming opportunities include new development, including Costco and other retailers at the Baseline Marketplace, and new amenities, including the exciting soccer complex that will open later this year. We believe this proposed budget maintains fiscal responsibility consistent with the city's mission and council's strategic plan goals, and it keeps the city living within its means while continuing to provide core services to the residents and businesses in the city. So at this point, that wraps up our introduction, and we can hear from the police department and then the fire department. And again, we'll open up for questions and public comment after each department. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Situated in the small chairs.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am Troy Bergstrom, your Chief of Police, and with me is Mark Pinedo, who's our Police Department Budget Manager. And we're happy to present to you the Police Department's budget proposal for the coming year. I also appreciate you taking us a little out of order tonight. Chief Harrigan and I have to be down in Lompoc on the Central Coast tomorrow morning, so we have a bit of a drive ahead of us after the meeting tonight. So I know we're a little out of order, but I appreciate that. As far as our budget for the coming year, first we'll kind of talk about how we divide it up within the police department and the budget divisions that we have. And so we're broken up. This is the same divisions we've had the last few years. Operations is our largest division. This is where patrol, all the people in the marked cars and uniforms that handle calls for service reside. This is also where our vehicle budget resides. Investigative services is our investigations units. Community services has a variety of units within the budget there: administration of the police department, traffic, social services, and animal control. And then our professional services division includes communications, which is our 911 center, records, property, and evidence. As far as our budget for the year, our total operating budget request for the coming year is $69.2 million. That is up from our current fiscal year, which is $65.5 million, which is a 5.7% increase. The police department is a people business, so the vast majority of our expenses are related to the staffing needed to accomplish our mission, and then the equipment, training, and resources to support them in their roles. Nearly our entire budget comes from the general fund, and we account for 29% of the overall city's general fund. While our budget request this year is a 5.7% increase, last year's budget was 28% of the overall general fund. So in comparison, our overall impact to the city is 1% more. As you can see from the pie chart, the bulk of our funding was in patrol. That's also the largest division in the department, and that's where the bulk of our services and the bulk of our staffing is provided. The next largest section is our admin budget. That's not because I cost a lot of money, that's because that's where all of our internal service funds are located. So $4.7 million, which includes facility services, facility rehab, IT services, basically everything we need to keep the lights on, keep the building clean, and everything to run the computer, run the PD, computers, IT, everything is in that $4.7 million. That's up from $4.3 million in our last year's budget. So as far as budget highlights for the coming year, with new positions in the police department, we have requested 3 new positions. If you remember back to the council workshop we had earlier in the spring, these are in line with what we presented regarding the increased staffing for Beat 8. So our Beat 8 plan begins this year, continues over 3 years, and so this is the first year request for that. 2 of those positions will be for patrol officers to begin the staffing model for Beat 8, and then the third position is in investigations. This position will be a second high-tech crimes detective to bolster the 1 person that we have in that assignment currently. And then the other positions we have in this budget are not new to us. We're just reshuffling the deck a little bit. You're all very well aware of our real-time crime center. When that began, we staffed it with community service officers. As time has gone on, we realized that's not the appropriate job classification for all the technical aspects of that job. And so we've gone out and researched what other jurisdictions are doing, and so we would be reclassifying 2 of those positions to real-time crime center specialists so that they're appropriately aligned for what their job tasks are. And then the third position is a reclassification of a senior records clerk to an administrative technician. This position handles all of the technical job duties that's associated with overseeing our department's connections to the state under the Department of Justice, under CLETS, which is our law enforcement terminal system, and all of our CJIS requirements. So there's a lot of very technical job requirements. It's very similar to the other job I mentioned. The job we have lined in it now just doesn't match the job specifications, so we're adjusting that appropriately. So for us, it would be 3 new positions and then adjusting the other 3. As far as our materials and supplies budget, this is really just the usual equipment and things that we ask for each year. You can see on the list there, this is general equipment needs. We made the transition to the TASER 10 last year, and we need to buy a few more of them as we've added staff. Our duty and training ammunition, the cost for this continues to go up, and so the costs are a little higher there. We're also looking at kind of a long-term way of funding the transfers of our ballistic body armor when they expire, rather than asking each year. This will kind of build it in structurally. And then we need a few more 40-millimeter launchers that go in our patrol cars, some SWAT equipment, which includes some items, some optics and scopes and things like that, and then replacing our SWAT uniforms. We need to replace them all at once for uniformity, and we haven't done that in a number of years. So all told, under equipment, it's $173,457 in equipment. When it comes to training, we're looking at adding in two areas. The first one is the Sherman Block Leadership Institute course, known as SLI. We have sent staff to this course for a number of years when it comes to our police sergeants and our dispatch supervisors, because that's who the state allows to go. Now they're expanding how that program can be used for more of our professional staff, and so we're increasing funding so we can send them this. I've been to this course. It is single-handedly the best leadership course the state offers, and it goes over 8 months where you go once a month to the course, and so this will allow us to send more of our professional staff. And then the second one is the CalNINA training increase. This is related to our dispatch staff. This is an increase in our budget, but it's not actually an increase in funding because the state reimburses us for all of that, and they're going to give us more money this year. And then the last thing that's an add there is with the Roseville Police Activities League and providing a contribution of $25,000 to our PAL. Our Police Activities League is set up very differently than all the other PALs that are in our region and really across the state. Most of them are housed entirely within the organization, Police Department, Sheriff's Department. They're funded by the Sheriff's Department or the Police Department. And as many of you know, because many of you have sat on the board of our PAL, that is not how ours is done at all. It's a nonprofit, and it has some troubles with keeping up. Everything is donation-driven, and we have really been building on the connection between the police department and our PAL the last few years. And this is kind of the next step in that to help stabilize funding, with the police department providing $25,000. This is their overall budget each year is about $160,000, so it's just a small fraction of what their budget is. If you add up everything that's in our materials, equipment, and training and supplies budget, it's about a $217,000 increase over last year. So as you can see, our budget requests for coming year are pretty straightforward. We're looking to add a few officer positions, as we talked about in the council workshop earlier this year, as we build out Beat 8. That is projected to take 3 years, so this is the first year of that. We're looking to reclassify those 3 positions I mentioned and add some needed equipment and training. All of this is to keep our service abilities on par with the needs of our city and in line with your goals of maintaining a safe and healthy community. And this year's budget looks to continue the same path into the coming year. So with that, Mark and I are happy to answer any your questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Chief. Does the council have any questions of Troy or Mark?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very good.
Okay, we'll open up to public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak to this item? Now would be your time to come forward. Okay, we'll close public comment.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Drive
you.
safely.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Ryan Harrigan. I'm your fire chief. Joining me tonight is Assistant Fire Chief Matt Lochner. And we are here to present our proposed fire department budget for the coming fiscal year. And like Chief Bergstrom, I would just like to say thank you for the consideration for allowing us to go out of order tonight so we can get on the road. So with that, we'll move into our divisions. The fire department's organized into 4 key divisions, each playing a unique role in fulfilling our mission. Starting with fire administration, this division provides the overall leadership and strategic direction for the department and manages the department's budget, payroll, community outreach, and public information programs. Moving on to fire operations, this division is staffed with 114 full-time employees, mostly assigned to 24-hour shifts across the 9 fire stations. And this team is the largest and most outward-facing division of the department and the backbone of our all-hazard emergency response model. Beyond fire suppression and emergency medical response, this division also oversees special operations, training, and citywide emergency preparedness efforts. For calendar year 2024, staff assigned to fire operations responded to over 20,000 calls for service, deployed for 7,500 hours of reimbursable mutual aid, and logged close to 24,000 hours of training. Moving to fire and life safety, this division is led by our fire marshal, and this team focuses on risk reduction through prevention and code enforcement. Specifically, the division enforces the California Fire Code and administers a comprehensive hazardous materials inspection program as a Cal EPA Certified Unified Program Agency, otherwise known as a CUPA. Their work includes plan reviews, fire permits and inspections, administrative enforcement, and then managing a portion of the city's annual weed abatement program efforts. These programs are vital to keeping our community safe before emergencies happen. Finally, fire support services. This division is an essential extension of fire administration, dedicated to ensuring that personnel are properly equipped and that our infrastructure, equipment, and systems are effectively maintained. This team works closely with other city departments to procure necessary equipment and service, maintain our facilities and apparatus and equipment, and ensure that technology and communication systems remain fully operational. Additionally, Fire Support Services manages the majority of the department's internal service funds, which cover fleet, facility maintenance, and IT. Altogether, the department manages 16 budget areas across these 4 divisions, defining how we allocate our resources each year. Moving on to our operating expenditures budget. For the coming fiscal year, the fire department has a $53.3 million budget request, which is up from $50.5 million for the current fiscal year, roughly a 5.5% increase, most of which is related to personnel costs. Fire operations makes up most of our budget, with 80% of all expenditures occurring in that division. As I mentioned earlier, this is where most of our staff is allocated, along with training and EMS, which helps explain the large expenditure displayed on the chart. The second largest portion of our budget is fire support services, which houses most of our material service and supplies, as well as our ISF budgets for fleet facilities and IT, making that the second largest portion. The fire department represents approximately 23% of general fund expenditures for fiscal year 25-26, and 22% of the fire department's general fund expenditures are offset by revenue. So our highlights for the coming year, like every other organization, the fire department continues to experience increasing costs for material, service, and supplies. However, despite those increases, we have a slight decrease in that category for fiscal year 25-26. Due primarily to one-time purchases related to technology and replacement vehicles from the 24-25 budget that are not being continued to the next year. The fire department is requesting one new full-time fire plans examiner, pending the establishment of a new classification. This position will allow the department to bring more fire plan reviews in-house, reducing our reliance on third-party contractors and improving service quality and turnaround times. For the department, currently tenant improvement projects are reviewed internally, while all new construction is sent out for third-party review. Like development services experienced a few years back, we've encountered recurring challenges with code interpretations from some of our contracted reviewers, which can lead to delays and increased coordination efforts. The department collects approximately $300,000 annually in plan review permit fees and builder reimbursements, and spends around $70,000 on contracted plan review services. Hiring an in-house plans examiner will improve consistency in code enforcement, provide faster, more responsive service to both internal and external stakeholders, and the cost will be partially offset through a reduction in those contracted plan reviews. As a new classification, the position allocation will be presented to the City Council once the classification is formally established. Next, the department is recommending the replacement of 4 vehicles in fiscal year 26. This includes one Type 1 engine, which is nearing the end of its service life. Like years prior, lead times for fire apparatus remain at 3 to 4 years. Ordering this engine in fiscal year 26 helps us stay proactive and maintain the reliability of our frontline fleet. 2 command vehicles and 1 staff vehicle, which serve our field-assigned battalion chiefs, and 1 administrative chief officer are also on the plan. These vehicles are critical for effective incident management and safe field operations. These replacements are part of our long-term fleet management strategy, ensuring we continue to operate with safe, dependable, and mission-ready equipment. Total fire department fleet replacement costs for fiscal year '26 are just under $2.5 million. Next, we'll look at budget additions for material service supplies, how they align with council priorities. To ensure a safe and healthy community, we're requesting funding for one multi-week fire academy to maintain adequate staffing levels. This is an internal academy to train and onboard firefighter paramedics who are new to the organization. This request includes staff time and materials for training, as well as the personal protective equipment needed to fully outfit each new employee. The Fire Academy represents a critical investment in our personnel, ensuring they can work safely with the team, integrate into our culture, and understand the Roseville way of doing business. The Fire and EMS data analytics software is an additional module for our report writing system that was funded for the current fiscal year. It provides real-time alerts and advanced analytics that support quality improvement initiatives and help to inform future deployment decisions. The policy platform is a technology solution for maintaining the department's policies and procedures. Helps to ensure the department has up-to-date policies and procedures that are compliant with codes, regulations, and industry standards. We also expect that it will considerably reduce the time staff currently spends on policy maintenance and development. To remain fiscally responsible, we're requesting one-time funds to increase our capacity for nuisance fire alarm billing and collection of reinspection fees. We'll accomplish this by programming a billing module into the existing Acela Civic application used for permit processing and fire prevention activities. While we don't anticipate a significant increase in revenue from this project, it is cost neutral over 3 years. But more importantly, the module will help the department gain compliance with essential fire prevention initiatives, promote responsible use of resources, and reduce unnecessary demands for service. And let's see, we're moving on to the last slide here. We'll invest in well-planned infrastructure and growth through a facilitated strategic planning process that will guide and inform the department's programming and budget for the next 3 to 5 years. The goal is to run that in the fall and have that align with City Council strategic plan. Increasing the budget for fire facility maintenance. The department currently operates 9 stations, ranging from less than 1 year old through 60 years old. Fire stations endure notoriously extreme duty cycles due to the 24-hour operation, and this increase will help to ensure that we're maintaining our facilities in good condition. The department absorbed increasing costs for several fiscal years in this category and often had to pull from other areas of our budget for maintenance and replacement, station equipment that's not typically covered by an ISF or equipment replacement fund. This increase allows the department to take a more proactive approach to replacing aging equipment and maintaining our fire station systems. Finally, we will continue to deliver exceptional services by hosting an annual tank car safety training course at our fire training facility. Roseville's in a unique position to offer this training given our working relationship with UP Railroad and our proximity to railroad infrastructure. The course helps to prepare our firefighters to respond to rail emergencies and work in a cooperative manner with railroad emergency managers. This is the only training of its kind in California and is fully reimbursed through an existing agreement with Cal OES. Last but certainly not least, Peer Connect is a health, wellness, and peer support management system that provides a suite of wellness tools for our employees. This application complements city EAP resources and expands access to peer support. Each member will gain access to peer support health and wellness tools and articles, self-assessment guides, and mental health resources 24/7, wherever they are, whenever they need them. The application also allows for more proactive management of our existing peer support programming, giving employees multiple ways to connect to support. This particular budget request qualifies for use of opioid settlement funds. Altogether, these projects are valued at $312,000 for fiscal year '26. The fire department has been busy, accomplished a great deal over the past year, including a leadership transition upon the retirement of Chief Barty last December, opening Fire Station 8 in the Campus Oaks neighborhood, completing the derailment training facility in cooperation with Cal OES, and responding to over 20,000 calls for service. I'm proud of the work the department does every day in support of a safe and healthy community. Thank you for your leadership and continued support, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Like our police overview, this is well thought out and thorough, and congratulations on making it through your first presentation on the budget. Nice job. Does council have any comments or questions before we open to public comment?
One question and one request. So the Type 1 fire, the Type 1 engine is the traditional one we see, leaving that versus a brush rig or anything else, right?
Correct. Yeah, the Type 1 is it's kind of our all-purpose resource. That is the traditional engine that you see.
Okay, great. And then I looked, couldn't find it, but I'd love some statistics around whatever a nuisance fire alarm is. You're going to increase the capacity for nuisance fire alarm billing. A lot of information here. I don't know how many nuisance fire calls you get.
Sure. Yeah,
But not tonight, but,
Yeah,
'cause
of
you got
course.
to get on the road.
I will get you that information.
Thanks. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll open up to public comment. Is there anyone that would like to comment on this item? Now is your time. Okay, we'll close public comment. Thank you very much. Safe travels. Okay, and next up is just the fiscal overview with Scott. I believe you're presenting, and Dennis.
Again,
Let's see. Hi.
I'm Dennis Kaufman, Assistant City Manager and Chief Financial Officer. And joining me today is to provide the fiscal overview is Scott Pettengill, our Finance Director, and Nancy Roethlisberger, our Budget Manager. Before I ask them to start, I just wanted to point out, I mentioned the one-page overview that we have here on the table, if anybody is interested in one. I also wanted to recognize Scott and Nancy for their leadership because the budget book, which is available on the internet, is 682 pages long and provides a lot of great information about the city's budget. And so I just wanted to thank them for their efforts. And I think Scott's going to recognize staff, but take it away, Scott.
Thank you, Dennis. Scott Pettengill, Finance Director. In terms of our agenda for this section, Nancy will start us off with an overview of the citywide budget, and this will include an overview of revenues, expenditures, staffing levels, and the capital improvement program, as well as a summary of general fund specific revenues and expenditures. And following that, I'll cover our annual calculation of general fund discretionary spending, our strategies to plan for the future in the general fund, and that includes a general fund 5-year forecast. And then I'll wrap up with some budget highlights for our general government departments. And then lastly, we'll provide some time to ask any questions you may have. But before I hand it off to Nancy, I did want to take a moment just to thank all the city staff who contributed to this year's budget. All their hard work and dedication are really, truly appreciated by the finance department. And most importantly, though, I'd like to recognize our outstanding budget team led by Nancy, who devoted a countless number of hours, an incredible effort in putting together a fantastic financial plan for the city this year. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank them for their tremendous commitment and excellence this past year. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Nancy.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Scott. Good afternoon, Mayor Bernasconi and council members. I'm Nancy Roethlisberger, the city's budget manager. Scott mentioned I'll begin today with a citywide overview of the proposed budget. First, I'd quickly like to recognize our budget team, most of which are here today. We've got 4 budget analysts that create our budget. It's Paula Beckman, Alexandra Marquez, Natalia Lochno, and Claudia Carreno. Also, I'd like to recognize Phoebe Schuler. She's administrative assistant for our department, and she puts that book together. Takes a lot of hours, and she did a great job this year. She was new in this role, so thank you to everybody. Okay, so we're going to start here with citywide revenues. Total revenues citywide are estimated at $110 million. This is an increase from last year's total of $799 million. Enterprise funds are the largest revenue source. This includes all of our utilities. Together, this makes up about 56% of the budget. General fund is next at about 28% of all revenues, and as you know, this covers our core city services, police, fire, parks, development services, public works, general government. The remaining 16% comes from other funds, and this includes revenues from special districts, development fees, golf operations, and others. And overall, this distribution remains consistent with prior years. Next, we'll look at citywide expenditures. The city's total expenditure budget for FY26 is $827 million, and that's up from $768 million last year. With projected revenues at $810 million, this means we're using about $17 million from fund balances to close that gap. This aligns with our city policies, which allows us to use available resources as appropriate. This year, it includes the Pension Reserve Trust, which is there to help manage pension costs, and capital and rehab funds, which are set aside for major infrastructure projects. And with this increase in total spending, again, this share here, these proportions here are consistent with prior years. The largest portion of the budget is salaries, wages, and benefits. We're a service organization. That totals 38% of the budget. We have materials, supplies, and services listed as 26%, but that next piece of the pie, purchase power, is actually part of materials, supplies, and services. We break that out so that you can see that. We've done that for a long time. That's the single largest line item in the city's budget. So materials, supplies, and services is actually about 38%, just like salaries, wages, and benefits. Capital and non-capital projects are 14% of the budget, and that 10%, about $83 million, that's debt service, transfers to other funds, and other payments that don't fit into these categories. And now we're going to look at new staffing in the FY26 budget. So, to address growing community needs and city council priorities, departments had initially requested 33 positions, but due to budget constraints and the need to maintain fiscal balance, the final budget includes a net increase of 19.75, approximately 20 positions. This represents a modest 1% increase in positions, and this means that the FY26 budget funds a total of 1,412 positions. Starting at the top of this chart, you can see that for new positions it's 23.75. That's offset by the elimination of 4 positions. And then additionally, there are other positions that will require city council approval sometime later in FY26. So the budget is providing funding for 4 positions that will be submitted to city council later once the new classifications are established. And then there are 5 reclassifications that will require HR review. After that's completed, then we'll come back to council. And then an additional 5 reclassifications require an HR study, and that will be, again, brought forward after those are completed and the positions are established. This shows how the positions worked out by departments. Fire and PD have already gone over their positions, and then PRL and Public Works will cover their staffing updates later. So the remaining are the city manager's office. This includes funding to reclassify 1 position and the executive assistant to an assistant to the city manager. This is to better reflect the responsibilities of this position, and that new classification, once established, again, will come back to city council at a later date. The electric utility is adjusting staffing to support maintenance and customer service needs. This includes several reclassifications, the addition of new roles that will replace existing vacancies. EU is budgeting for 6 new positions, and half of which will be reviewed by HR and brought back to you later. In finance, we have 1 limited-term ERP business analyst that will be converted to a regular full-time position. ERP is enterprise resource planning. That is our finance and HR system. So that change is going to help us manage that ongoing workload and support that system and improve its ability to deal with upcoming projects and upgrades. IT has 2 new full-time positions, and they're converting a limited term to a regular position. The new positions are 1, a business systems analyst to support public safety and our general government systems, and an IT analyst to maintain the city's network infrastructure. And then they have a office assistant that they'll be converting to full-time. This includes a vacant IT technician position that they'll eliminate to add in some ongoing savings. So overall, our budget has a mix of new positions, reclasses, and position reductions intended to meet the city's most important staffing needs for the coming year. Here's another way to look at the staffing changes. This chart summarizes the recommended position increases by council priority and to illustrate the primary driver for each, whether it's due to growth or it's enhancing service levels. Of the 23.75 new positions, 10 are supporting the priority of delivering exceptional city services, 11.75 supporting the priority to ensure a safe and healthy community, 1 supporting the priority to invest in well-planned infrastructure and growth, and 1 to support the priority of remaining fiscally responsible in a changing world. Most of the positions in this budget are required to maintain service levels for our growing city, and the remainder are to enhance service levels. Next, we'll do a quick overview of the 5-year capital improvement program. So at the May 21st meeting, you heard a presentation from our Public Works Director and other department heads with details on the FY26 CIP program. Notable projects include electric system improvements, water and wastewater plant rehab, new projects, new parks, trail construction, museum and aquatic center upgrades, and rehab to city facilities. The proposed budget for FY26 includes $98.7 million in capital appropriations. The majority of those projects, top to bottom, in electric, water, wastewater, and in PRL. We've also incorporated the department's long-term capital planning into our budget in our 5-year capital improvement program section. And this shows that there will be an investment of $575.8 million in capital spending anticipated over the next 5 years. And now we're going to turn to the general fund, and we'll start with revenue. Okay, so overall, the revenue budget is predicated on the primary assumption that sales tax revenues are going to continue to grow, but at a slower pace than before. And this is based on our analysis of current year trends and forecasts provided by our sales tax consultants. The 3 most significant revenue sources in the general fund are our Bradley Burns sales tax, the Measure B local sales tax, and property tax. Both Bradley Burns and Measure B are anticipated to grow by about 1% compared to FY25. For Bradley Burns, this means we'll be budgeting $70.9 million. This forecast is based on our sales tax consultant's most likely scenario. And similarly for Measure B, we base that $29.5 million that we're budgeting on our sales tax consultant's most likely scenario as well. Property tax revenue is estimated to increase by about 5%. This means we're going to budget just over $80 million in the next fiscal year. And we did want to note here that a portion of our sales tax gets returned to the county through the city's annexation tax sharing agreements. Operating revenues. This chart shows a breakdown of our general fund revenues, which total $243 million this year. And the 3 revenues we just discussed, Bradley Burns, when you see it where it says sales and use tax, that means just Bradley Burns. Bradley Burns, Measure B, and property tax is the majority of our sales tax, almost 3/4 of that budget. The remaining 26% is made up of licenses and permits, the electric franchise fee, charges for service, and other taxes, among other smaller items. So looking at Bradley Burns, this shows sales tax by category to give you some insight into how this is forecasted. So sales tax generated from general retail, so that includes transactions at places like the Galleria, and then transportation-related purchase from places like the Roseville Auto Mall or gas stations. These continue to account for the most significant portion of our budget. This is about 2/3 of the budget. And this shows the importance of consumer retail spending and transportation to contribute to our overall sales tax revenue. Remainder of our revenue is derived from various sources, including food products, business-to-business transactions, and construction activity. So we recently presented this chart to you, but wanted to briefly revisit it as part of the overall budget forecast for the next year. It shows the city's key sales tax generating areas. This is the second quarter of 22 through the fourth quarter of 24. Creekside and the fountains are there at the bottom, and it shows that those have remained relatively stable with minimal fluctuation over this period. Toward the middle there, that's the Galleria, and that continues to perform consistently, but with the seasonal peaks at the holidays. And the top line is for the Roseville Auto Mall, which is starting to show a slight upward trend there, and there are also seasonal peaks there in the spring of each year. So we continue to monitor these things closely with our sales tax consultant, just to get a clear understanding of what's going on in our city and with the revenue landscape. This is a multi-year trend for sales tax showing Bradley Burns sales tax with Measure B that started in fiscal year 19. As I mentioned before, we budgeted 70.9 for Bradley Burns and 29.5 million for Measure B. That's just over 100 million in FY26. The trajectory of sales tax over the last several years shows that following the pandemic, we observed a flattening of our sales tax. And here's a property tax revenue trend. This is a 10-year history here. This year, we estimated, we put into our budget 80.5 million for all our property taxes, which has consistently grown over the past decade, and this is attributed to the city's growth, the expansion of our city, and to increasing property values. And we'll continue to monitor housing market activity and trends and property value trends as well as we continue budgeting. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is general fund expenditures. Total general fund operating expenditures are $236 million for FY26. Half of that is allocated to public safety, and this underscores how our budget aligns with City Council's priorities for public safety. PD represents 29% and fire 23%. Moving to parks, PRL is 17%, and the remainder is dedicated to general government. Scott will talk more about that later. And then public works, development services. And that other category includes items like transfers to other funds and payments that don't fit in anywhere for any of those departments. This chart breaks down general fund expenditures into our major categories. First, salary, wages, and benefits. Again, it's the largest portion here of the general fund. That's 64%. This is compensation and benefits for city employees and departments we just showed on the other chart. So police, fire, PRL, public works, general government, development services. Next is materials, supplies, and services. This is the cost of goods and services. We have a lot of contracted services here at the city that we need to operate. It includes things like fuel, equipment, maintenance, professional services. And then that 2% transfers out, shows the movement of general fund resources to other city funds, including for capital projects, and the transfers out to our reserve funds. Okay, this concludes the FY26 proposed budget for citywide and general fund, and I'll hand it back to Scott.
Thanks, Nancy. So next, what I'm going to do is walk you through the annual review of discretionary spending in the general fund. And this review helps us examine how much of the spending is truly discretionary and supported by the city's major tax revenues. Starting out, we identify which general fund expenditures are paid for by revenues collected for providing specific services. And together, these restricted revenues total about $52 million for the upcoming year. And they consist primarily of charges for service, the electric franchise fee, and various licenses and permits. In the general fund, a significant portion of the charges for service revenue is collected by Parks, Recreation, and Libraries, as well as the Development Services Department. The electric franchise fee, as outlined in the city charter, supports the police, fire, and Parks, Recreation, and Library departments. And most licenses and permit revenues, such as animal licenses, building permits, and fire occupancy of permits and hazardous materials permits, are collected by the police, fire, and development services departments. In addition to these restricted revenues, some general fund expenditures are non-discretionary due to some contractual obligations or prior city council decisions. And these include tax sharing annexation payments to the county and retiree health benefit payments. And together, these obligations total about $26 million in the upcoming year's budget. On this next slide, it illustrates the general fund operating budget as a step-by-step filter. And we start with the general fund operating revenue budget at $243 million at the top. And from that, we subtract $52 million in expenditures that are offset by dedicated revenues, such as service charges, franchise fee, and permit revenues, leaving about $191 million supported by general tax revenues. Next, we subtract that $26 million in non-discretionary spending, which includes contractual obligations and council-directed commitments, and that brings us to the $165 million in discretionary.
Can we hold that slide for just 1 second? Because our printed slides have different numbers on them.
Yeah, there was a typo in the hard copy that was handed out, so this has been corrected.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
What was I?
Yeah, it's just in the funnel.
Okay. So down at the bottom there is the remaining 69 million, which is allocated to all the general fund functions, and that includes parks, recreation, libraries, street maintenance, floodplain management, code enforcement, economic development, and general government departments. And of that 69 million, 56 million will fund ongoing operations, while 13 million is proposed for one-time non-operating expenditures. So next, we'll touch upon the strategies we're taking to plan for the future. Developing the general fund budget involves estimating revenues and expenditures for the upcoming year, but also focuses on long-term planning that's guided by the city's financial policies. After considering the growing cost of city operations and the proposed augmentations included in this budget, the proposed budget includes a transfer of $745,000 of general fund resources into our stabilization reserve to meet the council policy target of 15% of general fund operating expenditures. Additionally, the budget transfers $495,000 into the general fund emergency reserve to maintain the council policy target of 10% of general fund operating expenditures. The purpose of the city's stabilization reserve is to address revenue shortfalls caused by economic downturns, while the emergency reserve is intended to cover expenditures necessary during an emergency. The City Council has established two strategies to address pension liabilities once general fund reserve targets are met under its strategic plan goal of remain fiscally responsible. Under the first strategy, the council approved a pension funding policy that includes a contribution to a Section 115 pension trust fund. And that Section 115 refers to a provision of the Internal Revenue Code that allows governments to establish a tax-exempt trust for government purposes. This pension trust is used to set aside resources, specifically to meet future pension contributions or liabilities, and these resources are irrevocably restricted for pension obligations. Additionally, the trust can serve as a rate stabilization fund to help ease budgetary pressures from unanticipated spikes in required employer contribution rates from CalPERS. For the upcoming year, $800,000 is being transferred from the Pension Reserve Trust Fund to the General Fund to help cover the $3 million increase in general fund pension costs for the coming year. After this transfer, the estimated fiscal year 26 ending balance in the trust fund is going to be approximately $22 million. So next, I'll review the City Council's second strategy for addressing our pension liability, which prioritizes paying down this liability after general fund reserve targets are met with additional discretionary payments to CalPERS. Our most recent CalPERS actuarial evaluation shows a funded ratio of about 65%, with an unfunded liability of $506 million. The projected annual pension cost for fiscal year 26 is $66 million. The fiscal year 26 budget does not include any additional discretionary payments or ADPs towards the pension liability, and this reflects the challenges posed by increasing general fund costs and the flattening of tax revenues that we discussed earlier. However, staff will again recommend additional ADPs when one-time funds do become available. Another tool that we take to prepare for the future is our general fund forecast. And we prepare this forecast for several reasons. First, it helps staff make prudent financial recommendations. Second, it puts financial decisions into a longer-term context for us. And then third, it provides some valuable opportunity for us to identify and understand the key factors that drive our revenues and expenditures. And when we do this regularly, this exercise improves our ability to budget more accurately and respond proactively to any financial trends. We included this graph here in our budget overview section of the budget book, just to provide a snapshot of the three potential revenue scenarios compared to projected expenditure growth under the most likely scenario. And the value of conducting this forecasting process each year is that it allows us to identify potential challenges well in advance and take proactive steps as the future becomes clearer. Of course, the future is inherently uncertain, and this graph is a simplified illustration that doesn't really capture the full complexity of the process that we go through each year to put this together, or the large range of possible outcomes that could be ahead of us. So next, what I'm going to do is walk you through some of the key assumptions behind the forecast and explain the process in more detail. And this next slide provides an overview of the key factors that are included as well as not included in the general fund forecast. First, the factors that we did include in these projections. We've estimated increases in user fee revenues based on current trends. Labor costs are projected using the terms outlined in approved MOUs. We're assuming inflation will gradually slow over the forecasted period. We've accounted for several underfunded obligations, including pensions, retiree health benefits or OPEB, as well as capital infrastructure rehab. And finally, we've included the expected financial impacts of known state and federal mandates that are already known. Now, some factors that are not included in this forecast, and that's either because they're too uncertain at this point in time or depend on future decisions. We've not included any new revenue from potential retail or residential development that hasn't yet materialized. We're not projecting an extended period of high inflation beyond the near term. And we've excluded the impacts of any new or currently unknown federal or state regulations. And so while the forecast gives us a solid planning tool, it's important to recognize both the assumptions we're working from when we put it together as well as the uncertainties that still lie ahead of us. In this next graph, we focused in on the operating revenue forecast by adjusting the axis there to give us a closer look at the projected revenue trends. The forecast is developed by estimating future growth rates for existing general fund revenues. Because the future is so uncertain, we built three scenarios: a base case, a more optimistic scenario, and a more conservative scenario. And each of these scenarios begin with fiscal year 26 projected revenues of $243 million. And by the final year of the forecast, they can grow to a range between $264 million and $295 million. And that means the difference between our most favorable and our least favorable outcomes is about $31 million by the end of this forecast period. On this next graph, we show the general fund operating expenditure forecast, which starts at the $235 million on the left-hand side and grows to $311 million in fiscal year 31. The expenditure forecast includes a few key assumptions. First, it assumes addition of 8 to 10 new positions each year from fiscal year 27 through fiscal year 31. And these positions would be fully funded by the general fund and intended to maintain our city service levels as our community continues to grow. Second, the forecast includes modest compensation increases to help ensure the city remains competitive in attracting and retaining talent. And finally, we've built in the impact of known increases in pension costs as well as medical premiums over that forecast period. This next graph shows the three general fund revenue scenarios kind of overlaid with the expenditure forecast. And you'll notice that all three revenue lines start above the expenditure bar on the far left. But beginning in fiscal year 27, depending on the scenario, revenue begins to fall below the projected expenditure levels. It's important to note here that unless we experience a significant recession, the city anticipates being able to maintain a balanced budget by adjusting our expenditure growth to better align with revenue trends. In the short term, we may also use the pension reserve trust, like we're doing in in fiscal year 26, to help absorb rising pension costs, which are expected to peak in fiscal year 31. It's also critical here to highlight that the revenue scenarios shown here do not include any new revenues from future development. That includes projects like Baseline Marketplace, which is expected to be a major funding source for services in West Roseville. While this forecast assumes the 8 to 10 new positions each year to support service delivery, staffing levels may be adjusted if revenue growth slows. So, for example, we would add fewer positions in any leaner year out in the future. And finally, as mentioned earlier, the city continues to maintain strong reserves, which will ensure we're prepared for any potential economic downturn. As part of our budget planning, we also model potential recession scenarios as well. And this helps ensure that we're prepared for future economic downturns. And in this graph, that dotted line there illustrates an example recession beginning in fiscal year 27 and showing lasting impacts over several years. Just to be clear here, we're not projecting any sort of recession will occur, but we're including this scenario because it reflects our commitment to responsible financial planning. Maintaining strong general fund reserves is a critical tool for navigating the first few years of any downturn. And as this graph shows, even a recession that is half as deep and half as long as the Great Recession would significantly affect our revenues. And in that case, we would likely need to reduce services while making strategic use of our reserves. The stabilization reserve will not eliminate the need to make adjustments, but it does give the city time to respond prudently rather than reactively. Again, I did want to stress that this recession scenario is just an example, not a prediction. It's based on many assumptions that are not expected to be exactly right, but the process helps us prepare for a range of possible outcomes in the future. Overall, the main takeaway from this 5-year forecast is that our general fund revenue portfolio is sustaining current service levels and helping protect Roseville's quality of life, but we must continue to stay vigilant. That means maintaining healthy reserves, regularly updating our fees and charges for cost recovery, building future budget capacity through tools like the CalPERS payments and the pension trust, and continue to find new efficiencies in how we deliver our services. So moving on, and before we hear from some of the other departments about their proposed budgets today, I'm going to highlight some of the changes in the general government department budgets. So starting at the top, the City Council budget. Expenditures decreased slightly compared to the prior year. Membership-related cost increases due to rising fees for the Local Area Formation Commission, or LAFCO, increased, but this was offset by increased reimbursements from other funds through the annual citywide cost allocation plan study that we do each year. The increase in the city manager's office budget is primarily due to the full year cost of the organizational performance program administrator position. This position, which was added last year to the Public Affairs and Communications Department, will be transferring to the city manager's office in fiscal year 26. The budget also includes a one-time increase in training funds to support a citywide employee engagement survey and consulting services. Additionally, funding is provided to reclassify a position to better reflect its current duties, as Nancy mentioned earlier, and these cost increases are partially offset by higher reimbursements through the citywide cost allocation plan. The city clerk's budget went down by 3% as compared to last year, and that's because there's no scheduled elections for the coming year. The city attorney's office budget increased by 2%, and that's mainly due to higher labor costs, including reclassifying a deputy city attorney to a senior deputy city attorney last year. Costs for materials and supply also increased, and these increases are partly offset by higher reimbursements from our cost allocation plan, similar to the other departments. Our finance department budget decreased compared to last year, primarily due to higher reimbursements from the cost allocation plan that helped offset rising labor and supply costs. And the budget also includes converting a limited-term ERP business analyst to a regular full-time position that we discussed earlier. The HR department budget increased by 1% this coming year, and this is mainly due to higher labor and increased workers' compensation costs, and these are partially offset by lower general liability expenses after a one-time payment last year, along with higher reimbursements from the citywide cost allocation plan. The IT department increased by 8% compared to last year, and this increase is primarily due to higher labor costs as well as rising expenses for material service supplies. And the budget also includes funding for those 3 new positions and the removal of 1 position for net gain of 2, as Nancy mentioned. In the Public Affairs and Communications Department, their budget increased by 2% from last year, and that's mainly due to higher costs for professional services, software, and training. And these increases were partly offset by higher reimbursements from the cost allocation plan as well. So that concludes the highlights for the general government departments. We are now available to any questions you may have at this point before you hear from the other department directors about their proposed budgets. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have any questions of staff before we go to public comment?
The comment is that it's very thorough. I mean, there were things I was thinking about and you were answering the next, thank you.
Yeah, nice job. Okay, public comment. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment on this item? Now would be your time to come forward. Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment. Thank you all very much for the information. Appreciate it. All right, and we will move on to the department overview, starting with Parks, Recreation, and Libraries with Jill Geller.
Yes,
Hi.
buddies.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the council. I'm Jill Geller, your Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Director. It's my pleasure to present to you the Parks, Recreation, and Libraries fiscal year 2025-26 budget. As you are aware, the Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Department oversees all of the city's parks and open spaces, recreation programs and facilities, libraries, and museum. This work is divided among the 5 divisions in our department that you see on this slide. We currently have 89 developed parks, with 6 more currently under construction. We maintain over 4,000 acres of open space, more than 300 acres of streetscapes, 43 acres of school properties, and more than 40 miles of multi-use trails. We also manage and maintain more than 30 facilities. These include our 3 libraries, 3 swimming pools, 2 golf courses, the Mahaney Fitness Center and Maidu Community Center, Maidu Museum and Historic Site, and 21 Adventure Club sites. PRL's proposed operating expenditures budget for FY26 is $54.6 million. This is made up of our various areas of operation you see on this pie chart, with the largest being parks, which comprises 35% of our total budget. PRL's total general fund operating budget is $41.3 million, making up 17% of the city's overall general fund operating budget. As you know, youth development, libraries and museum, golf and recreation generate significant revenues from user fees. So as a result, in the FY26 budget, 34% of PRL's expenses are covered by revenue offsets. To share some of our budget highlights for FY26, I'll start with new position recommendations. The department is requesting 6 new positions to support the continued growth and operational demands of parks, recreation, and youth development. 2 parks maintenance workers are proposed to begin in October and will be dedicated to the new 10-field Placer Valley Soccer Complex. Proper maintenance will be key to the success of the complex, and the focus for these individuals will be to provide a high level of maintenance from the moment we open our doors. This will allow us to maximize revenue opportunities and avoid costly repairs in the future. A recreation coordinator focused on sports is requested to start in September to support programming at the soccer complex. This individual will be part of the newly established sports section within our department, which centralizes PRL's sports facilities and programming and will help advance the department's sports tourism efforts. Once the soccer complex opens, all 3 of these positions will be funded primarily by soccer complex revenues. A new park supervisor is needed, as the park system will reach 92 parks this year, a threshold that was previously identified as a point where moving from a 3-region maintenance model to a 4-region model becomes most effective. Recent park additions include facilities like the pickleball complex at Gibson Park, the city's first disc golf course at Denio Family Park, several new dog parks, and the soccer complex. These are all unique facilities. And in addition to the many neighborhood parks that we've opened in recent years, they've significantly added to the supervisory workload. Since much of our park system's growth is in the city's new CFD areas, this park supervisor position will be partially funded through CFD admin fees. And the department also requests a senior parks maintenance worker to provide field leadership under that new 4-region model. Lastly, a child care site coordinator is proposed to begin next April to oversee the Winding Creek Adventure Club site that will open in August of 2026. This will be a .75 FTE regular position as part of PRL's broader strategy to manage youth development fund expenditures while maintaining high-quality care. I'd like to highlight the areas within our budget that directly align with the council's priorities. Last June, Council approved a policy that allows for general fund support for youth development subsidized programs, indirect costs, and facility maintenance. This helps ensure a safe and healthy community, as our adventure clubs and preschools serve approximately 1,400 children each week. Although the current year budget included a general fund subsidy, program revenues have not met budget estimates due to a competing on-campus program, and we do expect to end the year with a deficit of nearly $800,000. The department continues to closely manage expenses to minimize this gap, but additional general fund support may be required to address this deficit. The proposed FY26 budget includes an additional general fund subsidy to continue providing these services. We recognize how valuable these services are for the children, for their families, and for the broader community. So we're proud to offer programs that allow parents to work, keep kids safe, and help shape Roseville's future leaders. To remain fiscally responsible in a changing world, we will continue to identify and pursue opportunities for new revenue streams. This includes new programs, new events, and new sponsorships planned in FY26. And we're excited about the advancement we'll see in FY26 on the Council's priority to enhance economic vitality through sports tourism. This will be quite evident with the opening of the soccer complex, but we're also working to promote sports tourism at our many other sports facilities, including the Denio Family Disc Golf Course and the courts at Gibson Park. We'll continue to invest in well-planned infrastructure and growth through the replacement of our aging amenities in our parks, including basketball courts and play structures, and the continued renovation of our aging streetscapes. Supporting community engagement and advocacy is always a top priority for PRL. We'll continue to seek program, event, and facility feedback through surveys, focus groups, and public workshops. And to continue delivering exceptional services, we've requested funding for additional mobile devices and cell phones to improve technology access for our parks and natural resources teams. Over the past few years, the use of technology to manage irrigation systems and GIS data has become increasingly important. So providing staff with the right tools to manage and maintain our assets is essential to ensuring our continued efficiency and effectiveness. In conclusion, we wanted to share these PRL statistics from calendar year 2024 to provide a snapshot of how many resident interactions we have each year. This is for calendar 24, and we had approximately 1.2 million facility visitations, over 100,000 golf rounds, program and event participations of more than 650,000, 8,800 volunteer hours, equating to a value of more than $300,000, library circulation exceeding 1.4 million items, and more than 3.3 million visitors to our parks. I also want to share a resident comment that was submitted through our annual customer survey a few weeks ago. This resident shared, and I quote, "Downtown programming is greatly appreciated and has convinced me to stay in Roseville. I didn't think it was the place for me at first, but all the events, specifically in downtown, have definitely changed my mind. It makes this feel like a real community that I'm happy to be a part of." So lastly, I'm going to digress from budget for just a moment to take this opportunity to commend our Parks, Recreation, and Library staff, and also acknowledge the leadership and support of the city manager and city council, which have resulted in PRL being named a national gold medal finalist for the 4th consecutive year. And we're soon to be one of the elite 2% of all park and recreation agencies in the nation who are nationally accredited, as we were informed that PRL met all 154 of the national accreditation standards. So we do have a lot to be proud of this year. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation and stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Joe. Does the council have any questions?
Just have one
Joe?
quick question. I want to make sure I understood the distinction you made early in the operating expenditure budget. It shows 54.6, but you mentioned 41. Can you give me a refresh?
Yes, our total operating budget is $54.8 million, but only $41.3 million of that are general funds because of all the revenues that we generate.
Great, thank you very much. That's important. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Open up to public comment. Is there anyone that would like to comment on this item? Now would be your time to come forward. Close public comment. We appreciate you very much, Jill, and your department.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Development Services.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Mike Eisman, your Development Services Director. I'm pleased for the opportunity to present our fiscal year 26 budget. Just by way of refresher, Development Services, our current head count is about 84. That varies from year to year depending on workload. But we have 4 primary divisions that we accomplish our work through. Our leading off, our Building Permit Center and Code Enforcement Division is responsible for building plan review and inspection. They manage the Permit Center, which is the city's one-stop shop for development permits. And as you know, code enforcement is responsible for community-wide nuisance abatement, sign enforcement, graffiti abatement, and is now part of the illegal fireworks team that was established last year. Our Business and Administrative Services Unit provides organizational, technological, and administrative support to all the internal divisions within Development Services. They manage the citywide permitting system. They manage development-related records and data. They manage the citywide addressing and the base map data in the GIS. And they also manage, most importantly, our project billings, which brings in about $4 million in full cost recovery every year. Engineering land development reviews infrastructure improvement plans and inspects new topside and underground infrastructure as it's built. They maintain the citywide traffic models and manage the traffic mitigation fee programs totaling over $500 million. They also provide staff support to the South Placer Regional Transportation Authority. And then last but not least, the Planning Division oversees the city's land use planning and general plan, or zoning. They process development entitlements, and they participate in regional planning efforts with SACOG and other regional partners. Planning also provides environmental coordination services to all city departments, including utilities and capital improvement projects. Our net operating budget for next year is $14.5 million. It's broken into the categories on the screen, and the categories are roughly indicative of the team size of the various divisions and functions within the department. Between reimbursements for full cost projects and permit fees, we expect to take in just shy of $11 million next year in various forms of cost recovery. So the overall resulting net impact of the general fund is budgeted at $7.4 million, or only about 5 or 6% of the overall general fund operating budget. And as in years past, we always expect to do better. We tend to be a little conservative with our revenue projections, but just by way of reference, this year we're on track to be about 4% of overall general fund budget. And that general fund cost, as we've discussed before, is reflected in services that you generally can't recover costs from, namely code enforcement, a lot of neighborhood outreach, neighborhood disputes and things that we get involved with resolving, regional coordination, and general inquiries at the permit center. A resident comes in, asks a question about zoning, we're not going to charge them for that, and then other general government functions that we don't recover costs from. Unlike most of my colleagues, I'm not asking for positions, and we have no new programs proposed this year. So what I thought I would do is just brief you briefly on some of the things that we're keeping an eye on over the next year as it relates to our workload in the general economy. First, we are projecting a slight increase in uncontrollable expenses. They're rising from $13.9 million to $14.5. Some of that is due to a slight decline in our full cost billings because our net budget is our gross budget less our full cost recovery. So a little bit less in the billing revenue, but mostly due to increases in internal service funds, like you've heard from the other departments. And also the negotiated salary, wages, and benefits that are increasing, and technology cost increases. So those are things that are mostly beyond our control. Speaking of the technology expenses, we are keeping an eye on rising technology expenses. The development services technology platforms like Acela Automation, which is our permitting platform, and our digital plan check platform, those are paid for entirely out of our technology fund, which is a fee that we collect on every permit that we issue. What we're seeing is that the cost of those, they've gone from a fixed fee to a user-based subscription model like everybody else, so that our costs are increasing accordingly. So we're taking steps early to make sure that we maintain a healthy fund balance in the technology fund and that the revenues coming in don't outpace, or that the expenses don't outpace the revenue coming in. So that's something we're keeping an eye on. We're also keeping our eye on some economic factors that have a tendency to affect construction starts. You've heard or seen tariffs. I don't know how you haven't seen tariffs in the news, but that's one of the big ones that the construction industry is keeping an eye on, along with interest rates. On the tariff front, things like soft lumber, metals like steel and aluminum, materials like tile, countertops, fixtures, a lot of things imported from China and Canada. They have the potential to be particularly impacted not only from a cost perspective, but from a supply chain disruption perspective. So just getting the materials in time to complete houses, for example. And ultimately, those tariffs lend to higher costs, material shortage, and delays, all of which ultimately influence the housing starts and sales. We've already seen one subdivision out west that has decided to button up for the summer because their sales have dropped so significantly. So not concerning yet. That's just an outlier, but that is something we're keeping an eye on. The way it affects us is it creates uncertainty in our workload and our revenue projections. So we just have to be nimble throughout the year. And the bottom line on the interest rate front, anything higher may affect single-family home starts because people are more reluctant to take out a mortgage, and anything lower may spur more market rate apartment production, which affects our RENA numbers. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but that's just something that we will adapt to as the market conditions change. Like everybody else, staffing remains a perpetual issue. We have a particularly challenging time finding trade-related positions, so building inspectors, building plan reviewers. Nobody wants to come work in that capacity, so we're having to take extra steps to try to beat the bushes and recruit qualified candidates. You all know this, but I just want to recognize it publicly that the development staff have been running really hard, particularly over the last 5 years. They feel like they've been sprinting a marathon, and COVID really accelerated the pace of development. We've issued 7,400 single-family permits in the last 5 years. It's a lot of housing construction. But not only the houses, the single-family houses, it's the apartment construction that's keeping everybody hopping. So burnout is a real risk. We're keeping a close eye on that, especially with our inspection staff. They're still doing 45,000 inspections per year. The industry standard is 16 per inspector per day. They're doing about 25 to 30 per inspector per day, and they've been doing that for a sustained period of over the last 5 or 6 years. So it's something that concerns me, and we're just keeping a close eye on that. And then lastly, again, no surprise to anyone, the legislative environment continues to be a challenge. Of the 2,000 to 3,000 bills that come out of the legislature every year, about 300 of those usually affects planning and zoning law or housing, and most always impacts the way we do our business. Tells us how to do it, what to charge for it and things like that. We're paying particular attention this year to bills that impact our ability to collect impact fees. That is a risk that we've talked about before. We want to make sure that we're able to take in those impact fees to pay for the services that we promised the residents. So that is it for the Development Services Department's budget. I'm happy to answer your questions, but again, no positions, no new programs. We're not asking for anything.
Well, know that we understand that positions are required to manage a growing city too, but we also appreciate where you're coming from. Any comments or questions of staff in the council? If not, open up to public comment. Now is your time to make a comment on the development services. Is there anyone here who would like to come forward? Now is your time. Okay, we'll close public comment. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mike. Okay, next up we have Public Works with Jason Tchaikovsky. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the council. My name is Jason Tchaikovsky, and I'm your Public Works Director. Today, I'm excited to share with you a little bit about what keeps Public Works busy every day and the proposed fiscal year 26 budget that will allow us to keep serving the public in a manner they've come to expect, including a short list of funding increase requests. First, to set some context for the Public Works budget, I think an overview of the breadth of divisions and services provided by Public Works is helpful. Public Works is divided into 6 divisions. The first being Public Works Administration, which is reviews what the department's up to, provides oversight, direction, coordination, things like that. The second division I want to mention is Engineering, which oversees the design and construction of roads, bridges, bike trails, traffic signals, and road resurfacing. They protect our community through the management of the city's floodplain early warning flood alert system. They manage traffic operations throughout the city using their varied intelligent transportation system tools. They review requests for crosswalks, stop signs, and permit parking through their traffic study program. And they maintain the city's traffic signals, intelligent transportation system, and underground fiber network. The Street Maintenance Division maintains the city's roads and drainage systems. They seal the cracks in our roads. They remove and repave portions of failing streets. They fill potholes. They sweep the streets, install and replace traffic signs and pavement markings, complete traffic study improvements like adding crosswalks and stop signs. They conduct planned community event and emergency traffic control. They remove graffiti and pick up garbage on our city streets, and they clear our streets of leaves every fall. The Alternative Transportation Division owns and manages the city's bus system. They run the South Placer Transit Information Center, where riders can make Arrow on-demand reservations and get help planning their transit trips throughout most of Placer County. They provide oversight and planning for bike and pedestrian facilities. They implement the city's transportation system management ordinance, working to reduce single occupancy vehicle travel on our roads through encouraging biking, ride sharing, using bus and rail, and telecommuting at the city's larger places of employment. They work with our schools to encourage walking and biking to class through creating and identifying safe routes for children to get to and from school. And they oversee the training and locations of the city's crossing guards. Fleet Services Division purchases, manages, and maintains the city's 1,200-plus vehicle fleet, which includes everything from motorcycles and police cars to buses and garbage trucks. The Facility Services Division maintains and cleans all city-owned buildings and structures, from city fire stations to our parking garages. They manage the planning, design, and construction of city buildings, and they also oversee facility improvements ranging from painting to remodels. Operating budget for fiscal year 26 is $65.9 million, with just $11.6 million of that coming from the general fund. In addition, $2.4 million, or 21% of the Public Works General Fund operating request, will be offset by revenues. The Public Works General Fund operating budget is only 5% of the entire city general fund operating budget. As you can see from this slide, the largest piece of the pie for the Public Works budget pie is Fleet Services. Fleet Services is funded through an internal service fund, or ISF, where the city departments and Public Works divisions pay for what they use, including fuel, vehicle maintenance, and the largest portion of the fleet budget, end-of-life vehicle replacement. Alternative transportation and street maintenance tie with the second largest Public Works budgets. Most of alternative transportation's pie belongs to transit-related costs, with some going to bike and pedestrian needs. Though the entire pie slice is completely funded with state sales and gas taxes, they do not use any general fund. Street maintenance, on the other hand, has the largest general fund cost for Public Works. However, their slice of the pie also includes non-general fund sources of funding, like utility impact reimbursements from environmental utilities for their impact to our roads, roadway safety funds, and some state gas tax for roadway maintenance. Next is facility maintenance. Facilities is an internal service fund similar to fleet. And engineering uses a mix of general fund, capital improvement program, secondary labor, and Roseville electric funding for signal maintenance. And finally, Public Works Administration is a small 5-person team with a budget that barely shows up on the graph and is made up of a combination of funding from all the previously mentioned sources. So growth is a primary driver of the Public Works budget changes for fiscal year 26. Growth of the city leads to an increase in the number of assets to maintain and the number of calls for service. Quickly going through the list of Public Works budget increase requests for next fiscal year, we have $125,000 for a street maintenance worker to help maintain all the new storm drain inlets, storm drain pipe, storm drain outfalls being added with new development. $129,000 for a fleet mechanic. As the city grows, we need to maintain additional vehicles and equipment for our new employees and for servicing our customers. $163,000 for a facilities project coordinator. As we add more staff and facilities, and as our existing facilities continue to age, the need for maintenance, repairs, and improvements is also growing. $100,000 for a traffic signal maintenance worker. The city's adding dozens of traffic signals as we continue to expand out west, requiring additional signal maintenance staff to keep them working. And $119,000 for a facilities building maintenance worker, which is needed for similar reasons as the project coordinator mentioned earlier. However, the maintenance worker handles everyday repairs and improvements as well as building emergencies. And we're requesting an additional $36,000 to convert an existing office assistant position to an administrative technician position To meet the demands of growth, additional support staff with advanced skill sets are needed to keep up with the increase in public requests, invoices, and work orders. And the last item I wanted to highlight is the result of a state's electric vehicle mandates. This is not a person, but trying to keep from adding a person. Electric vehicles require a new type of fueling system, electric chargers. We were able to fund most of the charger installation with grant funding. However, the chargers require maintenance, repairs, and occasional replacement to keep our fleets moving. This $50,000 contract request is so we can hire a company to manage and complete this work for us rather than hiring additional city staff. In total, the fiscal year 26 budget increase for Public Works is $731,000, with only $160,000 of that being a direct general fund cost. This equates to less than a 1.5% increase in general fund funding for Public Works in fiscal year 26. And that concludes my brief budget presentation, and the Public Works Division managers and myself are available to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions of Jason? We always appreciate offsetting to the general fund, so thanks for that.
Thank you.
I'll open up public comment. Is there anyone that would like to comment on this item? Now be your time. None, we'll close public comment and we will move on. Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have economic development. Evening.
Afternoon. As the bookend to the department budget updates, I will promise this will be short and sweet. Good afternoon, Mayor Bernasconi, members of the City Council. Melissa Anguiano, your city's Economic Development Director. Joining me here is Tricia Isom, our Housing Manager, and Wayne Wiley, our Economic Development Manager. The Economic Development Department is comprised of two divisions, our Economic Development Division and our Housing Division, which includes the federally funded Housing Authority for the city. Economic Development's primary role is to foster a dynamic environment that supports business growth, attracts private investment, and delivers housing options in ways that enhance community vitality. The Economic Development Division focuses on strengthening Roseville's position as a community of choice for business, investment, and lifestyle by retaining and attracting and growing businesses, encouraging job growth and investment in the city, and leveraging local and regional partnerships, all while building on Roseville's competitive advantage. The division also provides staffing and support for the city's Economic Development Advisory Committee. Our Housing Division manages a variety of programs that strive to increase the city's affordable housing availability, including programs such as the Housing Choice Voucher Rental Assistance Program, our Community Development Block Grant, Affordable Purchase and Owner-Occupied Rehab Programs, and our Homeless Prevention and Rapid Rehousing Programs. This division also provides staffing and support for the Roseville Housing Authority, the Homeless Response Team, and the Successor Agency and Housing Successor Agency for the city. Our department operating budget for this next fiscal year is proposed at $3.1 million. Of that, a little over $1 million is general fund, which makes up less than 1% of the general fund operating budget. Just under 4% of the general fund expenditures are covered by revenue offsets. And this includes, as you can see from the pie chart, 75% of this is our housing budget, which includes non-general funds, a variety of state and federal housing, including CBDG, Home, Cal Home, our Federal Stimulus Reserve ARPA funds, Housing Trust, and Housing Citizen Benefit Fund. Not included in this pie chart and called out here on the screen is our Housing Authority's $11.9 million budget. The Housing Authority's budget represents a significant amount of work our Housing Division undertakes, and as noted on the previous slide, almost quadruples our department operating budget. This year's budget is up a little bit over $800,000 from last year's $11.1 million budget, and funds all of the programs under our Housing Choice Voucher programs, including our Veteran Affairs Supportive Housing Vouchers, Mainstream Emergency Housing Vouchers, and our new Foster Youth Initiative Vouchers. Mike's not the only department not requesting any positions or materials. Our department has no additional request for positions or general fund adjustments this year. But I did want to note that despite no changes to our operating budget, I did want to highlight our continuous efforts to support City Council's goals and priorities. And while we look to create and support an economy that's not only sustainable but resilient to economic changes. Under enhancing economic vitality, we will continue to support sports tourism, including the opening of the new soccer complex Jill mentioned, the attraction of new hotels, and the facilitation of new retail opportunities, fostering and supporting our strong retail market not only in the region, but which even extends to the Bay Area. Supporting small business and entrepreneurship is key to our city's economic local vitality and success, and still kind of leveraging the significant opportunities we've seen over the last couple of years with significant investments like Bosch. Our award-winning housing division, which celebrated 50 years last year, continues to be progressive in seeking the utilization of our housing choice vouchers, pursuing funding opportunities to leverage and bring additional affordable housing. We are awaiting notice from the state, hopefully, for 2 additional state grants for Cal Home and our Pro Housing designation grant, which would total a little over $2.4 million. And last, we know that commercial corridors continue to be a priority for City Council, and we're excited to bring some additional programs and incentives for the council to consider that will hopefully attract investment and development along those sites over the years to come. I noted last year and want to reiterate again this year that economic development in our city is truly a collaborative effort, one that really leads to a thriving community. We are incredibly proud of our strong partnerships across the various city departments, some of which you've heard from today, from our police and fire departments ensuring our community is safe, to PRL's robust offering of park services and programs, and public work and utilities build out and maintenance of vital infrastructure. Our collaboration extends to development services, finance, HR, IT, and of course, our council and leadership here at the city, all working in concert to create and support that community of choice we strive to be here in Roseville. These partnerships are the bedrock to our economic vitality, ensuring a well-rounded approach to growth and quality of life. And despite downturns or changes in the economic market, our department will continue to work towards ensuring that we have a sustainable and growing economy. That concludes our presentation, if there's any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of Melissa or staff?
A question. How much of the Housing Authority budget is federal funding?
All of the housing.
It is? Okay.
Yes.
So what, do we have any projections based on the budget that's moving through at the federal level currently?
I will let Tricia chime in on that one if she'd like to.
For 25-26, it's status quo. Thankfully, this year, we're good. We're not sure about next year. This year's good.
Yeah.
Okay, public comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this item regarding economic development? Now's your time to come forward. Okay, we'll close public comment. Thank you all very much.
Mayor, may I just make a brief closing comments?
Yes, I'll do our last public comment, and then you want to wrap us up? Okay. We'll do one last public comment on any item that's not on the agenda. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to any item that we haven't discussed tonight? Okay, I'll close public comment. Don, would you like some comments?
I would, yes, thank you. Wow, it's very, very impressive, very humbling. I think as I kind of get to sit back and watch just tonight and think about the year of work that goes into that and just the impressiveness of the folks presenting and really just the care and the stewardship. I want to thank staff. I want to thank you for your work. I know many of you view it as a calling more than a profession, and so thank you for your dedication in that. I also I want to thank the city council. I think one of the things that we often, because we try not to be cocky and we don't want to beat our chest and say, you know, what a great job we're doing, but we are and you are. And I think tonight is evident of that. And so I left a meeting a couple weeks ago where there's a chart in the budget, and I don't need you to look at it right now, but it's on A31, and it's a comparison of regional cities in our area. And when you look at that overall budget, is second to only the city of Sacramento, and it's more than double the next closest budget, which is Elk Grove. And walking out of that meeting, I realized there was only 3 agencies of about 25 that weren't reporting out that they were going to either reduce their budget by 5 to 7% or remain flat. And I will tell you, remaining flat in this, as you see in this environment, is actually a budget reduction. And this is where I get to the thank you. I think the strong fiscal conservative stewardship, the annual planning and looking at priorities of working alongside the council, the community, and staff to build those budgets every year has got us to where we do have fully funded reserves. We are able to look out into the future with some stability. And as you heard tonight, there's certainly some uncertainty when we look out in the environment. But for us, we can have a little better rest in that we've prepared. We've prepared, so we're not going to be in a position where we're making permanent cuts from knee-jerk decisions on what are actually temporary issues. And that's really to not only this staff and this council, but past councils and past staffs, prudent planning and preparation. And so I just, as I sit this back, I want to make sure the folks who are watching or listening don't think the hour and 45 minutes we spent tonight on almost $1 billion budget is the budget. This is a year-long process. It's inclusive. It's collaborative. We work very closely with the community, with the council, with our subject matter experts and staff to build this budget. And so I walk away tonight humbled. Truly just want to thank the council, thank the staff for the hard work that goes into building Roseville. And as usual, I walk away from this feeling very, very fortunate to be the city manager in the city of Roseville. So thank you, guys.
Thank you for that.
Oh, I almost forgot, Dennis. June 16th, June 18th, we'll bring back the budget to the city council meeting for adoption. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Michelle, do you have any
I have nothing
comments
to add.
tonight?
Thank you.
Okay. Council members, does anyone want to start us off with any comments?
Yeah, I will start off with it, and thank you, Mr. Casey, for those comments. You know, in the 6 years I've had the privilege of sitting here, this is probably the most consequential budget briefing we'll ever have. And kudos to those who had to pivot and pivot again and everything else. Because there are things that are well within our control that we planned for, and there are things that are certainly factors that are outside of our control. Kudos also for distilling this into maybe 7 slides per department. The number of slides don't reflect the incredible detail and information that's in here. And, you know, Mr. Casey, as you said, right, we're next to maybe the city of Sacramento. We're the largest, you know, we're running a nearly $1 billion corporation here. And we are in partnership as trustees of that, and we take our fiduciary responsibilities we take our fiduciary responsibilities very seriously, right? Because we're the caretakers of the public dollars, and in partnership with an incredible professional staff. So thank you, everyone, and thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Make any comments? Okay, I have a few comments to make. Hearing all of this, we definitely know that this is more than an hour and 45 minutes. This is a year-long process, and I know all of you are deeply involved in the process with each department, and then our city manager briefs us throughout the year on this. But I think that this is a budget that we can all be proud of. We talk about new positions, or we talk about that this evening, and I think that we're aware of those because those are the most visible or tangible or what we know the public looks at, but I know that we are in the people business, and it takes people showing up every day to get the job done. And we talked about this evening that certain positions meet certain requirements of our city goals, but the reality is that every position meets all of those goals. You know, safe and healthy community, fiscally sound, well-planned, well-managed infrastructure, so they hit all of that. And I just want to make sure that you all know that we're super thankful for all of your time and especially the council's commitment to this. This is I believe it's the most important responsibility that we have as a council, and it demonstrates our priorities. We know that a lot of work and thought has gone into this process. We were a month away from adopting, no, not a month, we're 3 weeks away from adopting this budget. Time flies. So we do that with a great deal of care. We know that we face economic uncertainty. These decisions that we make are not easy, although you make this all an easier process for us, and I believe that we're all on the right path. So just a big thank you and appreciation from all of us to you. Thank you for hanging in there this evening. Unless anyone else has any other comments before we close out, we will be back here again June 4th at 6 p.m. for our regular scheduled council meeting, and then again June 18th, 6 p.m., and we will review and adopt a very balanced budget. So with that in mind, I will adjourn us and see you all a couple weeks.
Next week.
Is that next week? Next week.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah.